This lecture is all about referencing sources, which is something that you have to do if you're writing a research paper. You need outside sources that support the ideas that you are presenting in your essay. You will find these in books, academic journals, newspapers, and other places. Why is it important? Because these sources give weight and importance to what you're saying. They come from experts, and you, generally, are a student who is learning. But these experts know the subject very well. So if you use their ideas to back up your own, it gives strength to your essay. It makes it more persuasive and believable to the reader. But be careful. You must reference all your ideas from those sources. Do not present them as your ideas, because if you copy them into your essay and you don't declare them as being outside sources, this is plagiarism, and that is the ultimate academic sin. Your teacher or the reader or the professor will know this because they will look it up. Also, you must fully understand the ideas and the opinions that you are referencing. You can't just add a quote or a summary or a paraphrase if you don't understand what you've just read. It will come across in your writing that you didn't fully understand what you have read and then written. There are different types of referencing, or, as we also call it, citing. This is a huge subject. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there's a picture of 3 books purely about citations. It means it's a very complex issue. Quoting means copying the exact words of a book, or journal, or whatever, in quotation marks. Paraphrasing means putting a quote into other words, meaning in your own words, and summarizing is writing these words or the source, the paragraph, in a very short way. You should make sure that you have a good mix of these, but not too many quotations. Paraphrasing also shows that you have understood fully the meaning of the ideas in the original source. Let's look at how to write quotations. Here's an example. Smith, 2011, says that the relentless sullying of our seas, rivers, and land is the biggest threat to our world today. The words in the speech marks are the exact words that appear in Smith's book that was published in 2011. This is MLA style. Other styles may have different rules about giving the publication date, but they all require you to put the quotation in speech marks. You could write this, Smith maintains that, then write the quote, or states that, or claims that, and then have the quotation. Keep your quotes short. All words must be specific to the point that you are making in your essay or in that particular paragraph. Don't have a quote of 20 words where only 8 of them are specific to the point you're making. That is a waste of words, and you will lose points for that. If some of the words are not specific to your argument or there are too many words, delete some and put an ellipsis where the words are missing. However, you must make sure that the words left fit in grammatically with your sentence. Don't think that if you have long quotes, it means you don't have to write as many words. Now let's take a look at paraphrasing, which is more difficult than quoting, but more important. Here is a paraphrase for the quote on the previous slide. Smith, 2011, says that pollution is extremely dangerous to the world. It says the same thing as a quotation, but in simple words and fewer words. A paraphrase is like a 50 to 80% summary. You have all the ideas that are necessary, but in slightly fewer words and written in your English, in your easier English. And to do this well, you must understand the text, otherwise how can you paraphrase it? You can't just change a few words and say, ta-da, I've just done a paraphrase. A good paraphrase demonstrates that you've understood what was written. Just changing a few words for a few synonyms does not demonstrate your understanding. Some teachers say, well, to paraphrase, you just have to change the grammar, change the word order, and change the words that you use. But that doesn't mean that you've understood it. If you do this, the results are usually difficult for the reader to understand, grammatically wrong, factually wrong, or completely hilarious. This is really bad advice. It doesn't show your professor that you've understood it at all. You should only change the grammar and syntax and vocabulary of the paraphrase to fit it in the sentence that you're writing. What I mean is, a change of grammar in a paraphrase is the result of paraphrasing, not a tool. That's not the way to paraphrase. So that advice by those teachers of how to paraphrase is terrible. Don't follow it. Bad paraphrasing. How does it look to a teacher? I'm going to show you an example. It's an exaggerated example, but it fully illustrates how badly paraphrasing can be done and how funny it can seem to a teacher like me. Let's take the sentence, "The dog ate the cat." Well, let's paraphrase it, shall we? Let's make it passive. This is what some English language teachers advise their students to do. The cat was eaten by the dog. Not bad, but why make it passive anyway? Okay, now let's change some vocabulary. The cat was consumed by the dog. Okay, so you've changed the verb, but hey, I want to change some more words here. Let's change the words cat and dog. The domestic feline mammal was consumed by the domestic canine mammal. Wow, great paraphrasing we're doing here, but I want to do more. Let me change the verb into a noun because my teacher told me to do that. The domestic feline mammal was used for consumption by the domestic canine mammal. Let me ask you, is that good paraphrasing or bad paraphrasing? It's awful. Just quote, "The dog ate the cat." It's simple and short with basic words. There's no need to paraphrase it. We paraphrase to simplify ideas or simplify language, and therefore we show our understanding. Or we make the quotation a little bit smaller by paraphrasing. Remember, 50 to 80%. We have "the dog ate the cat," 5 words. Look at the end product we have here, 13 words. You may make your professor laugh, but it isn't going to get you extra points. Here's my advice on paraphrasing. Read the sentence or paragraph that you're going to paraphrase, look up all the difficult words in a dictionary, and make sure that you've understood them. Then read the paragraph again very carefully and make sure that you understand that perfectly. Then put the book away where you can't see it. Then write your understanding of what you've just read. And if you're an English language learner, write it in your level of English with grammar that you understand and words that you understand. Then look at the book again and check that you haven't forgotten to include anything. Then make sure your paraphrase fits in grammatically with the words in your essay before it and after it. The result will be a very natural paraphrase that shows your professor that you have understood the concept that you are writing about. Summarising. This is another tool that you can use to make large quantities of text into much smaller quantities. If you have some long sentences, you would summarise them into one short sentence. A paragraph you may summarise into 1, 2, or 3 sentences. If you had to summarise the chapter of a book, which is quite rare, then you would put that into one paragraph. A summary is the essence of the writing, normally without examples. You have all the main ideas with, 1 or 2 examples, or without them. Here are some of the systems of how you tell the reader that you have just made a quotation or a summary and where it comes from. APA, MLA, Chicago, and Harvard. These are just 4 of them. But don't try to memorize how to do this. It's a waste of time and brain capacity. Instead, you should concentrate on developing your skills in paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing. To write your citations and bibliography, just refer to a website or a cheat sheet or a book and follow the rules. So how do you write a bibliography? There are different formats, and you should choose the one that your university uses. Each of them is different. You must be very careful to follow their systems correctly. Each of them has different rules for commas, semicolons, author names, etc. Furthermore, they all differ in the way you should reference within the text of your dissertation. Here is the beginning of my bibliography for my dissertation about Dexter. My university used the MLA system. We can see the author's surname followed by his or her initials, then a comma, then the publication date. You can see that some parts are in italics. There are books and online sources that can tell you exactly how to format your sources in the bibliography. If you fail to follow the rules exactly, you may lose points. Here is an extract for my dissertation. Let's look at how I referenced my reading for the MLA style. Here is the source in brackets after the reference. The reference contains a mixture of a direct quote, here, and a paraphrasing, here. It's good to have a mixture of quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. Et al. Is Latin. It means, and all the other authors of this source. In the bibliography, you need to write all of the authors, but you don't need to repeat all of their names in the text. Here is another piece of referencing, but before the reference. Ibid, also Latin, means this is from the source that I last mentioned. In other words, this was from the book by Strong and all the other authors. Of course, Chicago, APA, and Harvard systems are different. Also, it is important to know how to format long quotations. You cannot write long quotations and include those in your word count, and you must write them in a different way. Here is an example in the Dexter dissertation. I quoted 20 words, which is a long quotation, so I had to indent it by a centimetre on both sides. These 20 words were not included in my word count. However, if you include a long quotation, you must make sure that every part of it is relevant to your thesis. If it isn't, you will lose points.